Los Angeles with all their homeless camps. The tents and drugs are everywhere. I wish we all could leave California. Wish we all could leave California. I wish we all could leave California now.
Steve, welcome back. Welcome back to the program. All right, we're driving here. You look great, man. Okay.
I know. So look, let's just swing around. I got to show you the Starlink. There it is. Come on, let's have a look. It's right there in the front of the car. That's it. This is how we're doing it. Thank you, Elon.
You're driving down the 405 right now. You're campaigning. We have this footage of your announcement yesterday. It was massive. I've never seen anything like it in California. Good for you, man.
It was fantastic. We had thousands of people in Huntington Beach. And Huntington Beach is very special. For those who don't know, the reason I wanted to launch there, because Huntington Beach captures the spirit of the fight back that we need in California. 4 years ago, Huntington Beach City Council was run by Democrats 6-1. In 2022, a friend of mine, who's now the co-chair of my campaign, Tony Strickland, put together a slate of candidates. They took control 4-3. They immediately started doing common sense, conservative things, removing homeless encampments, prosecuting crime, getting the nonsense out of the school libraries, all of that stuff. Then in November last year, they ran a slate of 7 candidates. They called themselves the Magnificent Seven, and they all won, right? So you've gone from 6-1 Democrat to 7-0 Republican in Orange County, California, in the space of 4 years. And here's the best bit. Just last week, Huntington Beach, now run by Republicans, was rated the best run city in California. It's a perfect story.
Wow. And you're there with Chef Gruel as well?
Yes, he's amazing. He was our MC.
That's great.
And Charlie Kirk endorsed me and gave a great video. He wanted to be there, but he was in Texas yesterday. It was, John Voight. How about that? We had John Voight, Hollywood legend. It was a really great day.
We're getting ahead of ourselves, Steve, so why don't we begin? What will you be doing for the Golden State to make it golden again?
So here, can I just say, it really is a campaign. I want to show you, we've got stuff, right? Golden again.
There you go.
Steve Hilton for governor. We got caps. We got the whole lot here. Look, how about that? So it's real. This is definitely happening. Here's the thing. We need common sense, just like the president is arguing. It's not ideological. Everything is a disaster in California because of this far left ideological nonsense. We have the highest taxes, the highest rate of poverty. These people that lecture us all the time about social justice and equity, the highest rate of poverty in the country, the highest housing costs, everything is a disaster. Highest cost for gas, electricity, water, you name it. So what we've got to do is cut taxes, cut the bloated bureaucracy in Sacramento. It's even worse than the swamp in Washington, D.C. We've had 15 years of one-party Democrat rule. So my question to everyone in California is, imagine what it would be like with another 15 years. We have to change direction. Otherwise, California is just going to keep going down this path towards stagnation and decline. Here's what I said yesterday. It really reminds me, when I was growing up in England, before Mrs. Thatcher was elected in 1979, the UK was very similar, and it was called the sick man of Europe. And that's really the best description, sadly, of California today, the sick man of America. We're the worst on every measure that matters. But just like Mrs. Thatcher turned things around in England, we can do that here in California. That's what I mean by making this beautiful state golden again.
It's beautiful, and perhaps you could make a little news here on the program by announcing what you would do as governor if they were trying to release a criminal alien from the California penal system who had slaughtered 2 Californians and Americans and letting them burn alive as he was drunk driving, also on drugs, also illegally in the country, twice removed. Would you be letting this man free?
It is so disgusting. Here's the analogy that works, I think. Right now, you've got sewage from Mexico coming into California in San Diego, closing our beaches. We got to turn that back, and we got to send back the human sewage like that guy.
This is a decision that's being made clearly by the court systems and the penal system in California. How would you reform this? And obviously, the only way to deter somebody from not killing an American is to make the penalties so severe that you don't want to kill people. Am I correct there?
Well, there's a number of things. First of all, there's a general point that in California, we have to enforce the law. The Democrats are just fantastic at passing endless laws, but they don't want to enforce them. Secondly, you've got all these state bureaucracies like the parole board that are getting involved in these decisions, that are overruling in often local DAs who want to be tougher. I mean, we just saw a horrendous case last week where the brutal murder of a 2-year-old kid was let out early by the California State Parole Board. Those people are appointed by the governor. And I would pick those people out and put people in who want to enforce the law and, exactly as you say, send a message of deterrence so that if you do these appalling things, you're going to get punished to the fullest extent of the law. We got to send that message out. It's the exact opposite message being sent by the system right now in California.
So every single time that I visit California, and I was born in California, I'm a native of Los Angeles, didn't live there long, but this is where my birth certificate is. My parents left because they saw that it going downhill. And then every time I'm back for a work event or for a shoot somewhere, I just am astonished at the homelessness. And we've done videos on this and reports on this, but it's the park paradigm where if there's a city park that is intended for family flourishing and human flourishing, the city park is either for the children or for the homeless. They can't coexist. You can't have a man holding a bloody syringe, pissed all over himself, wobbling around, and mothers who are going to allow the children to play in that same area. It's going to be for one or the other. And so your state makes a choice. Is the state going to be for the homeless, druggy degenerates, or is it going to be for families and children? It can't be for both. It can't be. And so how are you going to fix that problem that seems to be so prescient throughout the state?
100%. Goes back to what we were just saying. Number one, enforce the law, right? It's illegal to be living and camping on the streets. And so if local authorities aren't going to do that, the governor can take action. Why? Because just as we saw in the pandemic, the emergency powers of the governor used for a terrible purpose, shutting down businesses, schools, churches. The emergency powers, I've got legal advice on this, you study it very specifically. It talks about the peril and health and safety, threats to that aren't being dealt with by individual authorities and require a state response. So you can do that as governor. Secondly, we have to acknowledge that a huge proportion of the problem in California is caused by the fact that the people living on the streets have either mental health problems or drug or alcohol addiction problems or both. Right now, there's a law, it's called Housing First. It was passed in 2016, a state law that literally makes it illegal for any organization dealing with homelessness that receives state money to require treatment, sobriety, or anything in exchange for housing. It's totally insane. We're the only state in the nation that's passed such a law. That needs to be overturned. And again, if the legislature won't do it, one way or another, I would get it done.
I'm constantly in astonishment because I live in Florida, Steve, and it's also a state that is sunny most of the year round. It would be very easy for there to be massive homeless encampments here, but yet there's none. There are no homeless. I'm not saying there's none. There's no visible encampments. There's no. If there is some bum, he's like gone in 5 minutes, right? Because the police enforce the laws here, and it makes it very easy to raise a family. It makes it very easy to have children. I mean, easier than it would be if it was filled with criminals.
I mean, none of this is complicated. Right? This is not like some massively complex policy problem that we need to figure out. Enforce, can I say something a little bit English here? Maybe I can get away. Enforce the bloody law. It's very straightforward. And so that's what we got to get back to, the ridiculous ideological contortions these people go through in here in California. It's not compassionate. We got to let people how is it compassionate to allow people to live in those conditions and to inflict those, as you say, on the vast majority of decent, regular people just trying to live their lives and raise their families? None of that is compassionate. We would never let someone we love live in those conditions, in those homeless encampments. So why does the government allow it for people who aren't their family members? We should treat people with respect and dignity. That means getting the streets and into the treatment that they need.
Yeah. We were in Oakland last year and got robbed within like 5 minutes of starting filming. It was like,
right.
This is California culture, right? Like they've got a brand. It's nice to see you taking a stern stance on this. Obviously, this is something that you don't want to have as a rep for your state. That there's nothing but homeless degeneracy and crime everywhere. It went downhill very, very quickly. And you mentioned the unified government. You mentioned that it's been a single party super state.
Yes.
And so it would be really nice to see that reformed, to see that changed. What about the way that the state does business? It seems like Gavin Newsom is constantly running massive deficits.
Yes.
And has built, to his credit, like about 17 feet of rail line, high-speed rail. So
honestly, I mean, I could be here all day on it. I just wrote a book, which we talked called Caliphalia, Reversing the Ruin of America's Worst Run State. That what you just talked about is a classic example. So first of all, on the running the government, in California, they've literally doubled the state budget in the last 10 years. Even taking account of inflation, it's up by 50%. So is everything twice as good? No, everything's worse. The money is going into government bloat. Good example. The empty reservoir lady that became famous during the Los Angeles fires, she's paid $750,000 a year. And you multiply that right across the state. All these bureaucrats, all these officials running everything into the ground, but being paid a fortune. And so the first step, actually, that the governor can do this, because you control the executive branch, is to cut back on the bloated bureaucracy, all the spending that goes with it. Then you can start cutting taxes, which will help us with the real objective, the other point you made in terms of the business climate. That's why so many businesses are leaving. And people are leaving because it's impossible to live here, run a business, build a home, do anything. You've got to turn all of this around. But as I say, it's actually not complicated. It's very straightforward, common sense policies. We've got to win the election, though. And I would say we've got the best shot of actually winning in California for at least 20 years. One, because people are so fed up with what's going on. It's really crushing people and they know that they need a change. Two, because you're seeing this movement across the country as part of the Trump revolution, where working class voters are switching from Democrat to Republican. In California, the real part of that story that matters is the Latino vote. And that is a real opportunity to make the case for change and to get rid of this Democrat nonsense that's just wrecking everybody's lives. That's how we make California golden again. It's a really, really exciting moment. I want everyone to get involved, whether you're in California or not. You should care about this. SteveHiltonforGovernor.com. I need your help. I need everyone to volunteer if you're in California. I really believe that we can pull this off. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's not impossible. And that's why we should go for it.
Steve, one final question for you, and this is my favorite. I'm so happy. I'm so happy to be able to ask this. If you get a chance to be on a debate stage with Kamala Harris, which you will, there's a very solid opportunity that you will be facing off with Kamala. Now, here in this clip, she's clearly drunk, and you could see the wine bottle just out of frame. But who knows? She might bring her A game when she debates you. So what is going to be your strategy in debating Kamala?
To tell the truth and focus on real policy issues. She has no clue. Here's the amazing thing about Kamala Harris. So for months now, she's been teasing this idea that she may run for governor, and her aides have been briefing the press. Every single story about her potential run for governor, it's not about us. It's not about all the things we've been talking about, the homelessness, the business climate, the bloated, none of that, right? It's always about her, right? It's, well, she may want to run for governor because she doesn't want the last thing of her public life to be certifying Donald Trump's election victory. Or, is the quote, she's intrigued. That was the quote. She's intrigued by the idea of being the nation's first black female governor. You think, what are you talking about? Here's the way I put it yesterday. Running California, as far as I'm concerned, the greatest state and the greatest nation on earth, is not some consolation prize for a failed and rejected machine politician from Washington who can barely string a coherent sentence together and thinks that she's entitled to this job because of her identity rather than her ability. She has no clue about policy. She's completely hopeless on details of how you actually make change happen in government. And so I cannot wait. Please do it, Kamala. Let's have that debate. I cannot wait to beat you again.
Just a bit of unsolicited advice in closing here. and it is just off the top of the dome here, Steve, but an idea. Kamala Harris lied about working at McDonald's. There's no proof she ever did this. She was working at a Canadian McDonald's. Nobody respects poutine. You could really, and Trump already did this number, right? And it did it as good as anybody ever will. But you could one up. You could really raise the stakes by working at In-N-Out.
In-N-Out, I knew you were going to say, I love it. I really love it. I totally agree. I was actually talking to the person who owns and runs In-N-Out. Fantastic company, always standing up for the truth, just as we were talking about earlier. It's a big, big favorite of mine and everyone here in California. What a brilliant idea. I'm going to take it.
Just you and RFK, man. You and RFK working at In-N-Out, making the fries from the potatoes. Dude, I see it. It's a winner. Everybody needs Steve Hilton is a winner. And Steve Hilton, it's an honor to have you on the program. It's an honor to endorse you. And to endorse you and to have you as somebody who's really out for change. And we were blown away by the reception you got yesterday. It's really inspiring.
Thank you.
Everybody follow Steve Hilton. And here's his campaign for governor. Steve Hilton URL, please.
SteveHiltonForGovernor.com.
SteveHiltonForGovernor.com. Thank you, Steve. Godspeed. Save the state.
See you soon. Thank you, man.